Hi, everyone. As I mentioned in the email I sent a little bit ago, we're not going to be able to meet on Tuesday, July 25th at our normal time. Instead, I'm going to record this video and then a second video and make those available to you. In those videos, I'm just going to sort of talk you through some of the material that we were going to review together on Tuesday morning, do some examples with you, and then hopefully after you've watched the video, seen the examples, you'll have a good sense of how to approach the material in this particular section. In this first video, I'm going to talk about the second primary grammatical concept from chapter 8, negative and indefinite words. In the second video, I'll review somewhat briefly the vocabulary material from chapter 8. I would encourage you to watch these videos carefully before you complete the homework that's due on Tuesday night. And then, of course, if you have any questions, just let me know. Send me an email. We'll also review this material briefly on Wednesday morning before we get into the extra material that's slated for Wednesday. So in this video, I want to look at the new grammatical material with you, and that is negative and indefinite words. So I'll share my screen and we'll get right into it. So negative and indefinite words. Negative and indefinite words is just a grammatical term that is used to describe words in English like no one, someone, nobody, somebody, nothing, something, never, always, either or, neither nor, and so on. The negative words are pretty obvious. No one, just a negation, not anyone. Nobody, nobody, not anybody. Nothing, no thing, never, not ever. The indefinite words are, I think, comparably intuitive. So take, for example, someone. Someone doesn't refer to any particular person, like John, Jill, or Jack, but to just someone out there, some human being. Similarly with words like always, or excuse me, with words like something. So not any particular thing like a pen or a book, but just something, anything that fits the category thing. In Spanish, you won't be surprised to learn, we have words like this as well. On the screen in front of you, you have a list of the most common negative and indefinite words. And I want to sort of point out a couple of features of these negative and indefinite words. Start with the negative words. The first thing you'll probably notice is that negative words very often begin with in. So nadie, nunca, nada, ningún, ni. Now, not all negative words fit this pattern. Tampoco, jamás, don't. But in general, when you're thinking of negative words, so negative, think of words that begin with in. Second thing I want to point out about negative words is that in Spanish, unlike in English, negative words very often take what we call the double negative, la negación doble. So for instance, in Spanish, we can say things like, Juan no estudia nunca. Juan never studies. In English, this would sort of technically be, Juan doesn't never study. Now, you may have said this at some point in your life. You may say it now. I've certainly said it. I know people who say it. It's technically incorrect. But in Spanish, it's not. It's perfectly correct, perfectly normal. It's the natural thing to say. Here's an example actually of a triple negative word. No haces nada para nadie. You don't do nothing for no one. Triple negative. So not correct in English, but in Spanish, obligatory, perfectly appropriate. There are some negative words that you can put before the verb. So you can see in each of these cases, nunca, nada, they all go after the verb. Juan no estudia nunca, no haces nada para nadie. Words like nadie, jamás, nunca, and tampoco can go before the verb. For example, Jorge no quiere ir a la fiesta y Elsa tampoco quiere ir. So Jorge doesn't want to go to the party, and Elsa doesn't want to go either, or in a slightly higher, more formal register, and neither does Elsa want to go. Here's another example. Nada can sometimes go before a verb. For example, nada es difícil en esta clase. Nada es difícil en esta clase. And you'll see that when the negative word goes before the verb, there's no negation. So it's not like no nada es difícil, or nada no es difícil. It's just nada es difícil en esta clase. The indefinite words are just the paired contraries of the negative words. So, for instance, we have the indefinite word alguien, and the indefinite word alguien is the opposite of the negative word nadie. And you can see the IE, alguien, nadie, that sort of gives away that they're opposites. Algo, nada. Siempre, nunca, or jamás. También, tampoco, like also, either. Algún, ningún, ninguno, or ninguna. And o, either or, ni, neither nor. So as you're studying these words, I would encourage you to think about them as paired opposites. So practice alguien, nadie together, algo y nada, siempre, nunca, tampoco y también, and so on. That'll sort of help you get them into your head in categories rather than trying to remember them as individual words. So here I want to look at some exercises, some examples with you. Oh, sorry. Before we look at the examples, this is a really important point. I almost overlooked it. The negative and indefinite words algo or algi, algún, and ningún are adjectives, which means they have gender and number. So for instance, if I say, ¿tienes algunos amigos simpáticos? So amigos is plural and masculine. So algunos also has to be plural and masculine. Do you have some nice friends? Now, one consequence of this is if we were to change it to tienes algunas amigas simpáticas. If we were to change amigos to amigas, algunos would likewise have to change to algunas. So degrees in gender and number. Here's another example. Marisol no está comprando ninguna ropa. She's not buying any new clothes. So ninguna is feminine, singular, because ropa is feminine and singular. Algún and ningún are the singular masculine forms of these words. So for instance, if I say, ¿me puedes dar algunos lápices? No, no tengo ningún lápiz. So rather than ninguno lápiz, we say ningún lápiz. Let's see if we can take these ideas and work them into some exercises. So what we have here. ¿Quieres comer blank tortillas? Well, do you want any tortillas? What we need here is algunas tortillas. Algunas tortillas. Why algunas tortillas? Because tortillas is feminine and plural. So the as there has to be mirrored by the as in algunas. Algunas tortillas. Dos, no, no, gracias. No quiero ninguna tortilla. Why ninguna? Because tortilla is singular and feminine. So ninguna also has to be singular and feminine. Number three, ¿te gusta jugar some sports? Some sport? Do you like to play some sport? Deporte, masculine, singular. So algún deporte. And the answer, no, no me gusta jugar ningún. So ningún is the opposite of algún. These are opposites. And because deporte is singular and masculine, ningún deporte. Number four, ¿quieres invitar a alguien a la casa? Do you want to invite someone? Well, no, I don't want to invite anyone. What's the opposite of alguien? Nadie. No, no quiero invitar a nadie a la casa. So here again, it's helpful, very helpful to think about these terms as paired opposites. Alguien, nadie. Algún, ningún. Ningunas, algunas. Alguna, ninguna. Cool. let's look at this one together. What I would encourage you to do, we'll look at the instructions, figure out what we're supposed to be doing. Then I would encourage you to stop the video, pause the video, and work through the examples on your own. Restart the video, and I'll explain the answers, and you can see whether you got them correct or not. So let's look at number one. So what we're trying to do here, basically, we're going to look at the image, we're going to read the sentence, and we're going to decide whether the sentence is true or false. Okay, we'll look at number one together. It says, no hay nadie en el comedor. No hay nadie en el comedor. Is that true or false? Well, that is false. Good. So number one, we have false. And then how do we correct it? How do we make it true? Well, we say I, and what's the opposite of nadie? The opposite of nadie is alguien. Hay alguien en el comedor. Hay alguien. There's someone. What about number two? No hay ni platos ni vasos en la mesa. Is that true or false? Number two. Well, number two is true. There are neither plates nor glasses on the table. What about number three? Tampoco, so neither, hay flores en la mesa. Is that true or false? That is true. Number four. Ninguna mascota está en el comedor. Is that true or false? Well, that's false. There is a pet in the room, in the comedor, the dining room. So what do we say? What's the opposite of ninguna? Alguna. Alguna mascota está en el comedor. What about number five? No hay nada debajo de la mesa. Is that true or false? Well, that is false. So we have to say I, and then what's the opposite of nada? The opposite of nada is algo. Hay algo debajo de la mesa. Yep. There's a dog and there's some crumbs. Hay algo. Number six, nadie limpia el comedor. That's false. Someone is cleaning the comedor. What's the opposite of nadie? Alguien. And notice here the IE, nadie, alguien. That'll help you remember that they're paired. No one and someone. Alguien limpia el comedor. What about number seven? El perro no come nada. El perro no come nada. Is that true? No, that is false. El perro come, and what's the opposite of nada? Algo. El perro come algo. Number eight. Hay algo al lado de la mesa. Al lado de la mesa. Is that true or false? That is true, so no need to correct it. Hay dos sillas al lado de la mesa. Okay, that's the basic idea. Again, when you're thinking about these, I think it's very helpful to think about them as pairs. So, alguien, nadie, algo, nada, nunca, siempre, and so forth. This will make it much easier for you to remember them. Okay. There's one other exercise. Here, what I'm going to encourage you to do is read through the sentence, find the negative or indefinite word, and then replace it with its opposite. So, for instance, ¿siempre llega usted a tiempo? Well, siempre, siempre, always. What's the opposite of siempre? Never. What's the word for never? Nunca. So, nunca llega usted a tiempo. Similarly, for number two, alguien va a ayudarla a limpiar la oficina. Alguien, what's the opposite? Remember, it has the IE, so it's nadie. Number three, limpia ventanas y espejos. Okay. No. What's the opposite? Well, here it might be me. So, do you clean windows and mirrors? No, I clean neither windows nor mirrors. So, ni. What about number 4? No tenemos aspiradora. ¿Tiene usted aspiradora? What's the opposite? No, no tengo ninguna aspiradora. I don't have any vacuum cleaners. Number 5. ¿Tiene algunas cartas de recomendación? ¿Algunas cartas de recomendación? Okay. So the indefinite word is algunas. What's the opposite of algunas? Ninguna. Good. So no tengo ninguna carta de recomendación. And number 6, ¿necesita saber algo más sobre nuestra oficina? The answer, no. No necesito saber, what's the opposite of algo? No necesito saber nada más sobre la oficina. We're going to review this exercise in class on Wednesday, but the basic thought here as elsewhere in this section is think about the negative and indefinite words as pairs. Never, always. Someone, no one. Something, nothing. That will, I think, make it as easy as it can be for you to figure out what's going on with these. So, as I was saying, we'll review some of these on Wednesday, but in the meantime, review this video, review the homework on MindTap, see if you can work through it on your own and get the correct answer. If you can, great. If you can't, bring any questions you have, send them in an email to me, or bring them to class on Wednesday, and we will look at them together. All right, so this is the first in a 2-part video series about the material we would have covered together on Tuesday morning. Be sure to check out the second video as well. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, July the 26th.